Well, it's Tuesday morning. I gotta start pulling the pistons on my Farmall. I'll be draining the oil and pulling the pan off to get at the rod bolts easier. Now if you see, this engine does have inspection covers on the side. It would maybe be possible to get at the connecting rod bolts, take them out, but it's so easy to pull a pan. I think these inspection covers were mainly so you could take them off and grab the rod bearings or with a pry bar, see how much play there is in the bearings. Because this has shims for shimming the bearings for how tight they should fit. So periodically you could pull one of these covers off and check the rod bearings to see if they were getting loose. And if they were, you would re-shim them. So I'm going to start with draining the oil and taking the pan off. Must be a lot of sludge in the bottom of there. So now we're going to turn the crank so number 2 is all the way down. I want to take that one out first, seeing it's the worst one. Now this is number 2. You can see there's cotter pins, encapsulated nuts, so I got to get the cotter pins out first. One, now I gotta get the other one. Get the other one. I got a brass strip to tap up on the bolts. Now when you take the caps off, you want to make sure keep all the shims in place so you have a starting point for readjusting them. So those are the shims, and you can add or subtract them to get the bearing clearance you want. I'll be showing those a lot closer when I'm putting it back together. bearing shell looks fabulous. Gotta draw blood. Now I'm going to crank it to push the piston up to the top. I think I made a mistake here. As I said, I've never taken one of these apart before. And the rod doesn't fit up through the bore, so apparently the piston has to come out through the bottom, so I have to get the rings back down into the bore and try it in the other direction. So I'm carefully working the rings loose, and I'm going to take them off the piston so it's easier to slide it down again instead of trying to compress them. Well, I have 2 of the rings off successfully, and try for the 3rd. Well, now I have the 3 rings off that are sticking out, so now I'm going to try getting the piston down through the bottom. But first I have to turn the crank so the throw is off to the side. And I'll put a rag around it to protect from dinging it because it looks to be in perfect condition. Now I'm going to attempt to pull the piston out the bottom. So there I have one extracted. And now here you can see the oil ring is really stuck. I was surprised the other ones came out that easy. So I'm going to take a little break now. You can see the wrist pin keeper is a bolt. Let's see. There's a bolt, cap screw. Goes up through the wrist pin. And then it appears to have a cotter pin in for a safety. So I'm sure it'll be a good thing I took it apart to clean it all up, because there's a good chance that oil ring wouldn't have come loose and it just would have been a smoker. So hopefully it'll turn out good. Well, now I'm going to proceed to pull in number 3. And I'm kind of curious if it's going to clear the oil pump or if I'm going to have to pull the oil pump. We'll find out. This one, the cap seems to be coming off without any tapping. Again, being very careful to keep the shims in place. That one looks really nice. I probably wouldn't have had to pull it. I probably wouldn't have to pull 1 and 3 either, but I'm just going to pull them all and clean it all up and clean the bores up a little bit with a ball hone probably. Now, we have one more issue that I suspected. Now the crank turns real easy. It did as soon as I got number 2 out. So I suspected the clutch would be stuck. And so far it's appearing to be. I put a come along in place to hold the clutch pedal all the way down. I put it in gear and cranked, and I can't seem, the clutch doesn't let go. But I did discover one thing which I had been curious about, is if he had done anything about the direction it drove about the gearing. If it still had 3 gears in the normal direction and you just load it in reverse. But by cranking it with it in gear, I discovered the 3 forward gears now would be going in the direction of the loader, and reverse would be going in the direction of the radiator. So to accomplish this, I'm guessing that it must be symmetrical in the differential, that he could take out the differential assembly and mount it in the other way around so that it would drive in the other direction. So that's an interesting thing to learn. As they say, he did a nice job on this. But working on the clutch, it doesn't have much travel. The one thing he didn't do is include a way to adjust the clutch pedal. We just have fixed linkages here, fixed linkages here. So I may replace one of those with a turnbuckle style adjusting, and maybe if I can, because it has very little travel on the pedal, and before I go tearing the clutch apart or tearing into the clutch, maybe if I can get more travel on it, maybe it will release. So thanks once again for watching.